All right, ready to dive deep into Napoleon Hill's law of success. Let's go beyond the surface level. You've got notes, highlights, even some question marks in the margins. It's clear you're really engaging with this material, so let's unpack it all together.
Hill's work is so fascinating because it comes from decades of observing the real world. He's spent over 20 years studying some incredibly successful people.
Yeah, from all kinds of fields too, right?
Absolutely. From big names in industry like Henry Ford and Thomas Edison to influential figures like President Woodrow Wilson.
And that really comes across in the book. Now, you highlighted the mastermind concept quite a bit.
Yeah.
That idea of finding the right people and really aligning yourself with them to create like a synergistic force for hitting your goals. But I'm curious, what was it about that idea that really stuck with you?
Well, it's interesting. Hill didn't just stumble onto this idea. He saw a pattern with these high achievers. They rarely worked alone. Instead, they formed what he called these mastermind groups, like these inner circles of brilliant minds, all working together towards a shared vision.
So it's not just networking, right?
Right.
It's not just basic teamwork.
Definitely deeper than that.
Yeah.
Hill noticed these groups weren't just about sharing skills or resources. It was about creating this mental synergy, almost.
Okay, I like that.
Think of it like, imagine a group of musicians playing together. When they're in sync, something special happens, right?
Yeah.
The music becomes more than just the notes they're playing individually.
That's a great analogy. And you even highlighted that example of Ford, Edison, and Harvey Firestone, the tire guy,
Well, yes.
going on those yearly camping trips, just the three of them roughing it in the wild.
Exactly. And Hill describes this as an unspoken bond of harmony.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't just about relaxing, it was about creating a space where their minds could really connect, spark new ideas, and fuel their individual successes.
Wow. But how do we make that work for us? I mean, not all of us can just go camping with these titans of industry,
Yeah,
right?
Of course. But the idea is still relevant. Think about the people you spend time with. Are they inspiring you?
Yeah.
Challenging you to grow? Do you have relationships where you can bounce ideas off each other, brainstorm, push each other to do better?
That makes me think about all those people who are always complaining,
Right.
or bringing negative energy. Maybe those people don't belong in your mastermind.
It's definitely worth thinking about. Who we spend time with has a huge impact on our mindset and ultimately our success. Hill would argue that a supportive, intellectually stimulating network is crucial.
Now, you also put a big question mark next to the section on the 6 basic fears.
Right.
Hill says they're fear of poverty, criticism, ill health, losing love, old age, and death. He argues these fears can really hold us back from reaching our full potential. What made you question that?
I mean, in some ways, it's easy to see how those fears are universal. I mean, who doesn't worry about their health or money?
Right.
But at the same time, I wonder if these fears are truly as ingrained as Hill suggests, or are they more a product of our individual experiences and circumstances?
It is interesting how he sees these fears as almost inherited,
Yeah.
passed down through generations, both physically and socially. But I see your point. Some of them may not be as relevant today as they were back then.
Exactly. Like fear of old age might have been more of a concern back then when there was less Social Security and healthcare. Today, maybe we worry more about fear of failure or fear of missing out.
Absolutely. And I love how he connects those feels to how we're conditioned by society. You even highlighted that anecdote about him letting go of his pet crow because of what other people might think.
Yeah, that story really hit me too.
Me too. It shows how deep those fears can be, even affecting our actions in, seemingly small areas of our lives.
Absolutely. But the good news is, Hill doesn't just list our fears. He gives us a way to deal with them. Study those who've overcome those same fears.
Mm-hmm.
Learn from their strategies.
I like that. So we don't have to be controlled by our fears. We can choose to face them.
Exactly.
And learn from others who've done it before. Okay, let's switch gears to something you underlined a bunch of times. Autosuggestion. You even put a question mark next to it.
Yeah.
Hill talks about it as a way to consciously shape our subconscious mind, basically turning what we want into self-fulfilling prophecies.
It's definitely one of the more interesting and maybe misunderstood ideas in his work. It goes deeper than just positive thinking or affirmations. It's about actively feeding our subconscious mind with the beliefs and outcomes we want, almost like programming it for success.
It sounds a bit like mind control, but in a good way.
Yeah.
But how do we actually use this, like in real life?
Well, Hill actually gives us a technique. He talks about visualizing your desired outcome over and over again, feeling the emotions that come with achieving it, even writing down your goals as if you've already accomplished them.
So it's not about pretending things are perfect or ignoring obstacles.
No, not at all. It's about aligning your inner world with what you want to see in the real world.
Right.
You highlighted that example of the guy who got that tough advertising job, the one where he kept visualizing himself selling to those, quote, impossible clients. It's almost like he willed it to happen.
It's amazing.
And it's important to remember, Hill wasn't saying to just have blind faith or ignore hard work. He believed this autosuggestion thing works best when you combine it with taking action. You're not just wishing for things, you're actively working towards them, and at the same time, shaping what you believe deep down.
So it's like a mental trick, right?
Yeah, kind of.
Like planting seeds in your mind and then helping them grow by what you do. Hill even gives us a specific creed to build self-confidence through autosuggestion. You flagged it in your notes.
Yeah.
It's a powerful way to shape your beliefs and ultimately what your life actually becomes.
He really believed in this technique. But like any tool, it's how you use it. Autosuggestion can be really empowering when you use it with real intention.
Okay, let's talk about something else you marked, something that seems basic, but Hill says is so important: saving money. It might seem simple, but he claims it's much more than that. He sees it as a foundation for building wealth and a reflection of how you think. What about that resonated with you?
What got me was that Hill's not just talking about saving to have money. He's talking about it as a practice in delaying gratification, self-discipline. It's about building the habit of valuing future gains over those immediate impulses.
I love that story you highlighted about the chauffeur, the one whose wealthy boss helped him transform his financial life.
Oh, yeah.
Just by tracking his spending and making small, consistent savings shows you don't need a huge income to start building wealth.
Exactly. Hill believed that the habit of saving, even tiny amounts, shades someone's potential for success. It reflects a mindset of planning, discipline, thinking long-term.
So it's not just about being cheap, right? It's about that mindset of responsibility and consciously using your resources to reach your goals.
Precisely. Making choices that align with your long-term vision, even if it means giving up some instant gratification.
It makes me think about all those get-rich-quick schemes out there. Hill's approach is the total opposite.
It is.
It's about building a solid foundation, brick by brick, through consistent effort and making smart choices.
That's a great way to put it. It's about sustainable wealth, not shortcuts or risky bets. It's about those habits that will help you in the long run.
Now, this is where Hill's ideas get really interesting. You circled his quote about the true reward of success being accumulated knowledge that lets you enjoy the world more keenly. He's talking about success as more than just money here.
Absolutely. Hill knew that material wealth was just one part of success. He believed real success was so much bigger than that. Personal fulfillment, growing intellectually, being able to make a real difference in the world.
You even pointed out the part where he talks about choosing to write the law of success even though his wife was worried about money.
Yeah, that story really stood out to me.
Mine too. It shows he wasn't just talking the talk, he was walking the walk. He put his passion and purpose first, even when it meant taking risks.
Definitely.
And maybe facing some setbacks.
Absolutely.
It reminds us that the most rewarding things aren't always about making the most money. It's about finding that spot where your work and your passions connect, even if it means making some sacrifices.
Exactly. And that brings up an important question we should all ask ourselves. What really brings you joy? How can you bring your work and passions together, even if it means taking a less traditional route? Hill's journey suggests the trade-off might just be worth it.
That's a powerful thought to keep in mind as we move to the next part of our deep dive.
For sure.
We've gone through some key ideas, but there's so much more to uncover.
Definitely. And remember, this is just the start. The real magic happens when you actually put these principles to work in your own life. We'll keep looking at those highlighted passages and go even deeper into Hill's philosophy in the next part of our deep dive. So, building on that idea of aligning work with passion, you also highlighted Hill's focus on initiative. It's about taking charge, seeing opportunities, going above and beyond, even when it's not in your job description.
That reminds me of that story Hill tells about the stenographer,
Oh, yeah.
The one who took it upon herself to learn everything she could about the company's clients.
Right, their businesses, even their competitors.
And it wasn't even part of her job.
Not at all. But she did it anyway. And guess what? It paid off big time.
Yeah, what happened?
She became so valuable to her boss, anticipating his needs, giving him insights, even helping with sales, all because she was proactive.
So she got promoted.
Yep, and a big raise too.
It's like that saying, dress for the job you want, not the job you have. But here it's more like, work for the job you want.
Exactly. It's a powerful lesson for anyone, no matter where you are in your career.
For sure.
And this whole idea of initiative ties directly into another one of Hill's principles, leadership.
Okay.
He believed real leadership isn't about bossing people around. It's about inspiring them, getting them to work together, and creating a shared vision.
You actually started that passage where Hill says, men must and will follow into battle officers who are not leaders, but the driving power behind these men is not enthusiasm, but discipline. What do you think he's getting at there?
Well, I think Hill's making a distinction between just having authority and being a true leader. Someone might have power because of their position, but that doesn't make them a leader.
Right.
True leadership, according to Hill, comes from qualities like confidence, strong morals, fairness, and putting others before yourself.
It's about inspiring people, not just forcing them to obey.
Right. It's about creating genuine enthusiasm and loyalty. He uses that example of Sergeant Alvin York, the World War I hero. York was a devout Christian, actually opposed to fighting at first.
Wow, so how did he end up a war hero?
Well, instead of ordering him to fight, York's commanding officer talked to him about his sense of duty and his faith, showed him how his skills could be used for something bigger than himself. And you know what? York ended up becoming one of the most decorated soldiers in the whole war.
It really shows how leadership works.
Yeah.
Understanding what motivates someone and inspiring them to do amazing things.
Exactly. Hill believed that effective leadership is about persuasion, not force. It's about really understanding people, appealing to their values, and creating situations where everyone wins.
Okay, now here's where things get a little trickier. You flag the section on the psychology of the crowd with a question mark. Hill talks about how people in crowds can be easily swayed by strong emotions, and they kind of lose their individual rationality. He talks about religious revivals, but it feels relevant to so much more today, don't you think?
Definitely. Hill was a keen observer of human behavior, and he knew the power of groups. He saw that in big groups, people become more susceptible to suggestion, whether it's from a charismatic leader or just the energy of the crowd itself.
Like at a concert.
Exactly, or a sporting event.
Right, you get swept up in it.
You feel that shared emotion, which can be incredibly powerful. But it can also be a little unnerving, especially when you think about how easily crowds can be manipulated.
That's true. Hill wasn't saying to manipulate people, but he believed that understanding this crowd psychology was important for anyone who wants to influence others.
Yeah.
Whether in business, politics, or even personal relationships.
Absolutely. It makes you think about how important critical thinking is,
Right.
Especially now when we're constantly bombarded with information and emotional appeals.
We have to be so careful.
Hill would probably say that critical thinking is even more crucial now than ever. It's about being aware of the things that influence our thoughts and actions, both the things we're conscious of and the things we're not.
Absolutely. Okay, let's shift gears to another idea you highlighted, the subconscious mind. This is where Hill's ideas start to get really powerful and maybe a little mysterious.
You're right. Hill thought the subconscious mind was a source of untapped potential. He argued that it's always working in the background, shaping how we think, feel, and act. And he was sure we could learn to use its power through conscious effort.
So you're saying we have this whole other mind working that we're not even aware of?
In a way, yes. Hill thought the subconscious was much more powerful than our conscious mind. He saw it as where our creativity comes from, our intuition, even our deepest fears and desires.
You highlighted that story about the woman who basically cured herself of a chronic illness.
Right, just by believing she was healthy.
It's incredible.
It's a really powerful story, but it's important to be a bit skeptical too. I mean, not everything is a miracle cure, right?
Yep.
Right. But Hill's point is that what we believe, whether we're aware of it or not, has a huge impact on our reality.
So how do we tap into this power?
Well, Hill talks about using techniques like visualization and autosuggestion, which we talked about before. He believed that by focusing on what we want again and again, we could basically program our subconscious mind to work towards those things.
So it's about aligning our inner world with what we want externally.
Exactly. Hill also stresses how important our thoughts are. Remember his famous line, thoughts are things. He was suggesting our thoughts have a real tangible effect on our lives.
It's almost like a spiritual idea.
It is. This is where Hill's work overlaps with some spiritual and philosophical traditions. He believed that we create our reality with our thoughts, that if we focus on good, constructive thoughts, good things will come into our lives.
Kind of like the law of attraction.
Right. But Hill goes even further. He suggests our thoughts might even have effects beyond this life, impacting what we experience after death.
Wow, that's deep.
It is. It might not be something we can prove scientifically, but it shows how much power Hill believed our thoughts have.
Okay, let's bring this back down to earth a bit. You circled this quote. Until you have learned to be tolerant with those who do not always agree with you, you will be neither successful nor happy.
Right.
It seems so relevant today, especially with everything feeling so divided.
Hill knew that tolerance was crucial for success no matter what you're doing. It's about respecting different opinions, even when you disagree, and realizing everyone has something valuable to offer.
He even says that intolerance is a sign of a weak mind. Like, if you can't handle different opinions, you're not thinking clearly.
It's a strong statement.
Yeah.
But it really shows how important it is to be open-minded and able to engage with diverse perspectives. Hill uses the example of Abraham Lincoln, known for his ability to work with people who had opposing views.
It shows that real leadership often means building bridges, not walls.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And this brings us back to the mastermind. Hill thought the best collaborations had people from different backgrounds with different viewpoints.
Right. It's about using everyone's strengths to reach a shared goal.
It's like building a team of superheroes, each with their own special powers.
I love that.
But instead of fighting crime, they're starting businesses, solving problems, or making the world a better place.
That's a great analogy. It really captures the spirit of collaboration. But it also raises a question, how do we even cultivate tolerance in a world where it seems like everyone is so set in their ways?
That's the million-dollar question. And honestly, Hill doesn't give us easy answers. Maybe it starts with really listening to others, trying to understand where they're coming from, even when we disagree.
Yeah, realizing everyone has their own experiences that have shaped their views.
Right. It's about acknowledging that.
And maybe it also means challenging our own assumptions, being open to the idea that we might not always be right.
For sure. Tolerance isn't about giving up what you believe. It's about making space for respectful conversation and understanding, even when you disagree.
And that brings us to another important idea you highlighted, enthusiasm. Hill saw it as this infectious force that can inspire action.
Absolutely. In ourselves and in others.
You underline this amazing quote. Enthusiasm is a state of mind that inspires and arouses one to put action into the task at hand. It does more than this. It is contagious and vitally affects not only the enthusiast, but all with whom he comes in contact.
It's so true. It's like that saying, enthusiasm is contagious. When you're really passionate about something, it shows. And that passion can inspire other people.
You also flagged that story about the guy who got his dream job, the one who kept going after the person who could give it to him. He even bought new suits for the occasion.
3 new suits. It just shows how important it is to present yourself with confidence and enthusiasm.
Even when things are tough.
Exactly. Remember Edwin Barnes, the guy who walked into Thomas Edison's office and said he wouldn't leave until he got a job? That's enthusiasm in action.
And he wasn't even qualified for the job.
Right. But his enthusiasm and determination convinced Edison to take a chance on him. And he ended up becoming one of Edison's closest associates.
Wow, that's amazing.
It's a great reminder that sometimes the most important thing is just wanting to succeed. Hill thought enthusiasm could make up for a lack of experience or skills.
That's encouraging, especially for those just starting out. It shows that passion and determination can open doors that might have stayed closed otherwise. But how do we cultivate that enthusiasm?
Right.
Especially when we're dealing with setbacks and challenges.
That's a great question. Hill would probably say it starts with figuring out what you're passionate about. The things that really light you up. And once you've found those things, it's about focusing your energy on going after them, even if it means taking risks or stepping outside of your comfort zone.
And being around people who are also enthusiastic, people who lift you up.
Absolutely. Enthusiasm spreads. So being around those who share your passion and encourage your dreams can be really motivating.
Now, we can't talk about Hill without mentioning something you marked with a big question mark. Failure. It seems like you're skeptical about his idea that failure is actually a stepping stone to success.
Yeah, I think a lot of people struggle with that idea.
That's true.
We're taught to see failure as something bad, something to avoid. But Hill saw it totally differently.
He actually tells readers to look for their failures.
Right. He even suggests keeping a failure diary.
Right.
To track what you learn from each setback. He saw failure not as the end, but as a necessary part of learning. Every setback, every mistake teaches us something that can help us move forward.
If we're open to it, right.
Exactly. You highlighted this great analogy. Every failure will teach you a lesson that you need to learn if you will keep your eyes and ears open and be willing to be taught. Every adversity is usually a blessing in disguise. Without reverses and temporary defeat, you would never know the sort of metal of which you are made.
Powerful stuff. It's about bouncing back, being resilient.
Yes.
Hill believed that was essential for long-term success.
I did.
So it's not about dodging failure. It's about seeing it as a chance to learn, to tweak our approach, and come out stronger.
Exactly. Hill believed that our ability to learn from our failures was a key difference between those who achieve lasting success and those who give up at the first sign of trouble.
It really changes how you view failure.
It does.
It becomes a tool for growth instead of something to be afraid of.
And it reminds us that the road to success isn't always straight.
That's true.
There will be bumps, detours, unexpected obstacles along the way. But it's how we deal with those challenges, how we learn from our mistakes, and how we keep moving forward with enthusiasm that truly determines our success.
Well, we've covered a ton, from the mastermind to the subconscious mind, and even how to see failure as a good thing.
Right.
But looking at your notes, there's one more thing you highlighted that I want to get into.
I bet you're talking about Hill's emphasis on having a definite chief aim. He considered that like the foundation of success.
You got it. You practically circled this whole section, underlining stuff like crystallize your definiteness of purpose and burn your desires into your subconscious mind. What is it about this idea that really speaks to you?
Well, Hill believed that to achieve anything really worthwhile, you need a clear, well-defined goal. He said that without a definite chief aim, our efforts just get scattered, and we lose the focus we need to overcome obstacles and achieve lasting success.
It's like that saying, if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there.
Haha.
You need to know where you're headed.
Right, and Hill believed this definite chief aim should be more than just some vague desire or a wish. It has to be a burning passion, something you're willing to give your all to.
You also highlighted where Hill suggests writing down your definite chief aim and reviewing it regularly.
Oh yeah, and visualizing yourself actually achieving it as vividly as you can. He believed that writing it down and visualizing it helps make the goal more solid in your mind. Makes it more real, more tangible.
It's like you're giving your subconscious mind a map to follow.
Exactly. But what about those of us with lots of goals or multiple passions? How do we decide what to focus on?
That's a great question. Hill knew we might have many desires, but he said it's crucial to focus on one main goal at a time. He thought that spreading yourself too thin can lead to feeling overwhelmed and actually hinder progress. So it's about picking your battles. Focus on one key goal, give it everything you've got, and then move on to the next.
Right. Hill believed that kind of laser focus is how you overcome those inevitable challenges you face on the path to success. By putting all your energy into one definite chief aim, you're more likely to actually achieve it.
It's interesting how he connects this to the subconscious mind, suggesting that by clearly defining our goals and visualizing them repeatedly, we can tap into this hidden power source.
Yeah. He believed the subconscious mind is unbelievably powerful, but it needs clear instructions to work effectively. So by clearly defining our definite chief aim and feeding it to our subconscious constantly, we're essentially programming ourselves for success.
It's like we're setting the coordinates on our inner GPS system and then trusting it to take us to our destination.
Exactly.
But how do you know you've picked the right definite chief aim?
Right.
What if you change your mind or find new passions along the way?
Well, Hill knew that our goals can change over time, and that's fine. He thought it was good to be flexible and adapt, but also emphasized sticking to your chosen path with determination.
So it's about finding that balance, right? Having a clear vision, but being open to new possibilities.
Yes, and trusting yourself to make adjustments along the way without losing sight of where you ultimately want to go.
It's pretty inspiring to think that we can shape our own destinies by setting our goals, using the power of our subconscious minds, and being able to adapt when things change.
Hill's whole philosophy is about empowerment. He believed that we're not just passive observers in our own lives. We actively create our realities. He wanted people to embrace their potential and go after their dreams with enthusiasm and determination.
And there you have it. We've gone deep into those highlighted parts of Napoleon Hill's The Law of Success, exploring everything from practical tips to deeper concepts. We talked about the power of the mastermind, conquering fear, and the unexpected impact of even small things like saving money.
We also explored the subconscious mind, looking at techniques like autosuggestion and visualization. And we discussed Hill's unique views on failure and how important it is to have a definite chief aim.
This deep dive has been quite a journey, but as we always say, the real learning starts when you take these ideas and put them into practice in your own life.
Hill would definitely encourage you to experiment with these principles. See what speaks to you, what works best for your situation.
So keep exploring, keep learning, and most importantly, keep taking action. You never know what amazing things you might achieve when you put the wisdom from Napoleon Hill's The Law of Success to work for you. Until next time, keep striving for your own definition of success.